If you're interested in playing Mage Knight, you probably already know that it takes a very long time to play, and you can see why. You're basically going on an adventure, you're leveling up your hero, and then you are attacking a large city or multiple cities within one game. So that takes a long time. It's lots of fun, but it does take a long time. So if you're interested in playing Mage Knight, but you'd like to have a shorter game, here are some hints. The simplest way to play a shorter game is to have your hero already leveled up. You can use a very small map to attack the cities. That way your game can focus on conquering the city that could have many enemies in it, but it doesn't take as long. Alternatively, you can use a smaller map and focus on one aspect of the game, such as recruiting units, attacking orcs, mage towers, keeps, or dungeons. Or if you're brand new to the game, you may just explore, like in First Reconnaissance. If you want some pre-existing ideas of how to make shorter games, take a look at my playlist about mini-games on this channel. The rest of this video will talk about hints for creating your own custom game. The first thing that you should know is that the round is the center of everything, and it takes about 30 minutes to play a round. If you happen to be very familiar with the game, you might play it as fast as 15 minutes, but that's a good average. Of course, as you go through the game, you will gain more and more cards in your hand, which takes longer and longer to play, mainly because of the decisions that you have to make. So if you want to play about an hour-long game, you should think of it as taking 2 rounds. If you're new to the game and you want to create a shorter version that is mainly about leveling up, then you need to understand there's kind of a level to the different artifacts on the map. Walk through, starting with page 13 when it talks about revealing new tiles, it'll kind of show you these levels. See, this is by looking at the enemy and ruin tokens on the back of the game walkthrough, and you can see the enemies and their powers, and you can see that they get progressively more and more difficult to defeat. Bit of exception. You can think of the levels based upon the cards in this order: the crystal mines and magical glades, the village, the orcs, the keep, and also the mage tower is just kind of a little bit more difficult than a keep, and it's a nighttime type of thing typically. Then the monster den, dungeon, and ancient ruins. And then on the back of most of the other cards is the more advanced version. So for example, spawning grounds is more advanced than monster dens. If you're brand new to Mage Knight and you want to create your own custom short game for about an hour, then you would want to explore the first level of items such as the crystal mines, the magical glade, the village, and mainly the marauding orcs in terms of who you would combat. So in the first part, you would focus on perhaps recruiting a unit and combating basic enemies. Perhaps healing a little bit, or getting rid of damage, and gathering mana crystals. So the main point is, as you're progressing, you're gaining cards into your hand and adding skills. Now, if you've become an intermediate level and you want to have a short game, you would want to have maybe one extra card, 1 or 2 extra cards, and 1 skill to go to this intermediate level. And perhaps you might want to have 1 unit and maybe a spell from a mage tower. If you're new to the game, the other thing that takes a long time is just figuring out all the rules and how they apply to the different situations. If you find yourself looking up in the rule book all the time, I would suggest taking a look at my quick review playlist, because I have videos set up for that are organized like an index, and the videos are all about 30 seconds to maybe a minute, very, very short, to focus on specific rules as they apply during the game. If I want to play a short version of Mage Knight where I'm conquering cities, how do I know how to level up my characters before I start the game? The answer again is based upon how many rounds would you have played. If you look through the scenario list in the back of the rule book, you'll find that the long games are typically 6 rounds and the shorter versions are typically 4 rounds. that you wanted to play one of the shorter versions, but you want to jump into it as if you've already played 2 rounds. And your goal is just to try to conquer one city. A good way to think about that is to imagine that you've finished 2 rounds, and so the number of units that you could have are just 2, 1 for each round. That will also determine your level. And then for skills, again, 1 per round. Crystals, 1 per round. For the other cards, including spells, artifacts, or advanced action, just think of it as being 1.5 times the number of rounds and randomly pick whichever one of those spells or advanced action or artifacts. Same thing for the units. You can randomly pick those, and skills and also crystals as well. And then you would just set up 1 tile or maybe a couple of tiles and just place your hero next to the city as if you're in that final assault phase. If you want to kind of pick it up at the end of, say, a full conquest, those are typically 6 rounds, and so you would imagine that you've already completed 4. And so here I have 4 units, and you might want to limit yourself to at most 2 elite units. I have 4 skills, 4 randomly chosen tokens or crystals, and then 1.5 times 4 or 6 cards of any type, and I can decide whether spells or artifacts or however I want to decide that. Upon the scenario that I've chosen, I may have 2 or 3 tiles where I'm just trying to finish off and conquer these cities. Finally, if you're playing with the dummy player, the question is how many crystals should you have and how many advanced action cards? And again, that depends upon the round. So if you're doing a full conquest, you would have completed 4 rounds. And so you would have 1 advanced action per round and 1 randomly chosen crystal per round. Notice here that in the official rules I should have added 1 crystal per dot on the bottom, but I just remember it that way so it's easy for me to see which crystals have been added because of the rounds, so you can do it either way you'd like. So I hope that helps you understand how you can create your own short version of Mage Knight. If you want to see some mini game ideas that I've already created and just set up so that you can quickly just run through them, check out again the playlist for mini games. And if you need some help in reviewing the rules, take a look at the quick review. So I hope you enjoy playing Mage Knight. Have fun.